Well, I thought it'd be useful if we gave an overview and talked about why NION came into existence and how it all happened. And is most changes, major changes happen, is because of some life crisis that caused you to relook at the entire world around you. And in terms of NION, the life crisis started when, over a long period of time, with my mother and father's declining health. My dad was extremely active, high energy sort of guy, and then all of a sudden his health began to decline, and over 20 years he just finally, after fighting chronic disease after chronic disease, he died just from exhaustion primarily. And then it began to happen to my mother. Smart, energetic, engaged woman, and she was engaged right up to the end of her life, but it was a 20-year decline. We played whack-a-mole with doctors year after year after year, fighting off chronic diseases, and finally she passed away in an emergency ward, emergency room, as doctors were scurrying around trying to help her, and she just decided to pass in my arms. And the doctors, out of respect for life, stopped what they were doing. And I began to realize that medicine doesn't have the right tools to help us live full and complete and long lifespans. They just want to keep us going to the next event. And that was really deeply unsatisfying to me. And to make matters worse, I was entering that stage of life when my health was declining too. My digestion was bad, I couldn't sleep well, you name it, it was not good. So I began to rethink a lot of priorities in life, and my wife picked me up, dusted me off, and took me out to a lecture with a fellow named Jeff Bland. Jeff is a doctor who's focused on, or started the Institute for Functional Medicine, looking at a very holistic approach to medicine and health. And he was introduced to me by Joe Pizzorno, who started Bastyr University, a naturopathic, holistic university looking at health. And Jeff had one observation that resonated with me, and it just pulled it all together. And he said that age is the greatest risk factor, for almost all chronic disease. And that's what my folks had, increasing age. We were all focused on solving the disease. Why weren't we solving the issues around aging instead of disease? Why play whack-a-mole for 20 years when you could instead enjoy that time because you extended the aging cycle? It just seemed very obvious or clear to me, but it was a different way of thinking, and the entire allopathic medicine arena was still very, very focused on disease. So I'd already had a couple of career changes. First of all, I'd been an attorney, but I didn't care for the adversarial system, and so I moved into education and was a professor of finance at the University of Washington, and began to research health, aging, and that whole paradigm of extending human health span. That extension of human health span apparently has a lot of research going on at major institutions, but it's rather disparate. It is not the primary focus of most medical schools, but they are coming to some amazing conclusions. One is that we are very likely to improve basic economic health of the nation if we extend human health span. For example, Oxford and Harvard concluded that if we are able to extend human health span in the US by 10 years, we would generate an improvement in gross domestic product by about $9 trillion. Hey, the whole US economy is $23 trillion. $9 trillion, you're increasing it by a third by just focusing on health span. Never mind all the money that's being wasted on whack-a-mole chronic disease conditions. Second, they've concluded that we could extend human health span by 40 years. That would be a greater value than the entire gross domestic product of the US now. So it seemed like we had our priorities really goofed up. And as fate would have it, or as synchronicity would have it, as I was focusing on mitochondrial health and those elements of the human health span and how they decline with age and how they're one of the 14 hallmarks of the aging process, into my lecture hall came a man who was introduced as, well, he was just a brilliant material scientist. And he was in the very latter stages of his life, but he had invented the touch screen monitor that you have on your cell phone now. He had invented cruise control. His name was on that patent. He had invented a transducer for a billion-dollar company. He had invented the deployment system for the airbag. He was a brilliant material scientist. And he had come up with an ingredient that he thought had some revolutionary impacts. And his entire career had been focused on, not on medicine, his entire career had been focused on materials and how you could get them into computer chips or electronic equipment or things of that sort. And so his production system was extremely complicated in terms of having to have an enclosed clean room with partial vacuums and sophisticated production equipment. But damn, it really, really worked. And it carried a negative 330 millivolts of electric potential in a very consistent granule. And so we began to work together to introduce this material to university human performance lab testing. We went to the dental school, we went to medical schools and other places like that to test it in different conditions. In every case, it improved human performance, muscle recovery, even the total energetic output of muscle cells and mucous membranes. It improved them substantially. And why was that? Our conclusion is that the mitochondria within the cells, those little energy producing organelles within the cells, have a negative 160 millivolts. Now the entire body has a negative maybe 25 millivolts of power, but the mitochondria that run the entire show inside the cells produce all the energy. They have a minus 160 millivolts of electric potential. And as they produce ATP, they reduce their effectiveness and their ability, and their voltage goes up. In other words, they're less electric potential. We saw that these granules were actually improving the mitochondrial function. We were getting into that level of the mitochondria energy production. And so we knew that we needed to have a tribe. Now, this material scientist had been at the latter age or stage of his life, and he passed away. But the beauty of his passing was that he wasn't a 20-year decline in health. We went out to dinner and had a good time a week before he passed away. And I remember delivering a patent to his home, and he was so proud of that. He was going to research whether he was the oldest person to have been issued a patent in the US. He was disappointed that he wasn't, but he was excited enough that he put that patent on the wall right next to the picture of his kids. He was quite an extraordinary man, and I appreciated the fact that he did not have a 20-year decline. And neither do I intend to have a 20-year decline. But as we looked for the tribe, it became clear to us that the tribe is really the intermittent fasting community. They're already aware of cellular health. They are focused on lifestyle changes to extend human health span. And this ingredient, this NION that we've named it, has the ability to improve hydration, which is one of the elements that is sort of a negative for fasting. It improves the removal of toxins, which is one of the objectives of fasting. And it improves your overall mitochondrial health by producing more energy and improving your recovery, and provides it in a very, very safe way. One of the last things we did is we went to the Food and Drug Administration with this ingredient, showed them what we had done and the safety profile, and they agreed that this was an incredibly safe material, although very difficult to make. NION is recognized as a new dietary ingredient and is available now for help in the intermittent fasting community. So I think we have found our tribe, and we're really excited to be able to be part of an enormous community of intermittent fasting, people who are looking to improve their life, their longevity, and their lifespan. And then we're going to continue to do research here. We are building out our production facility to a new scale. We have our research labs set up and doing work with foundation grants as well. And so we're very excited about the next phase of this company and its introduction to the intermittent fasting community and focusing on extending human health span as part of a calling, I think. So that's the story of NION. That's how we got here. And we're looking forward at a long run to introduce this ingredient to the intermittent fasting community and then a larger community as we improve human health span. Thanks.